Yeah. All right. Okay. It's Bourbon Blog Live. I'm here with my good friend, Master Distiller Brent Elliott, and we've got to see each other a couple times this week, haven't we?
Yeah, we have Monday and now tonight. Good to see you
Yeah,
again.
hey, it's good. It's good to see you. I know a lot of people. I mean, really, who isn't excited about a new release from Four Roses, a limited edition release like this Four Roses small batch limited edition. This is delicious, Brent. We'll talk about it here in just a moment. But first, for all those watching, we are indeed live. So if you have questions for Brent Elliott about Four Roses, anything Four Roses, ask them below. Like this, share this. This is how many limited editions have there been? Is this how many years in are we into the small batch collection of limited editions?
Well, the first one was 2007. That was Jim's 40th. And then we started the small batches in 2008.
Right. I knew it was way back there, right when we first started Bourbon Blog. So we're looking at like 14. What would that be? 14 of these? 13?
13, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember back when they were calling them marriage, right?
That's right. 2008 and 2009 were marriage.
I think I still have one of those because I was like, hey, I want to keep one of these. Nobody knew if they should say marriage or marriage. Nobody knew what they should say, did they?
Yeah, that was the problem. That's why we just changed the name and called it like it is. A small batch limited edition.
It makes sense. So this is the highest proof one. Again, if you've had these before, this is the highest proof one to ever be released, right?
I believe so. I tried to go back and look. From my recollection, I don't recall one being this high. And I went back to the lab and looked through some years past, and I didn't find any higher than this. So I'm pretty sure this is the highest one we've released to date.
114.4. It's series stuff, but as we know, what is the reason? I mean, this is something we say often. No matter what Four Roses we're drinking, why does Four Roses always drink lower proof? I mean, that's one of the things we've always said about it. What's the reason?
That's a good question. I've noticed the same thing, and I've heard a lot of people make that same comment. I think probably a lot of it is, with the different yeast strains we use, we try to create a really clean distillate so those delicate flavors can come through. So it probably all starts there with the very clean, crisp distillation. Not a lot of heavy notes. We try to distill that out. So that may be part of it. And then the way we mingle different recipes together, that's by design, especially something like this. They're there, so I always try to build those together so that it doesn't have a bite. It is smooth and mellow.
It is beautiful. Okay, so this one again. Let's get right to telling people all about this bourbon, which it's coming out later this month, right?
Yes.
So the 2021 limited edition small batch Four Roses coming out later this month. It's everywhere from 12-year-old to 16-year-old. These are some really old bourbons. What do you? I guess the first question is they're always different. What are you most excited about this year? What do you like about this year's?
This one is probably just how it has a lot of intense flavors, and for me on my palate, like when it hits my palate, I just get this impression of strong, robust. There's some sweetness, some fruit, but it just sort of unfolds as sort of spreads across my palate. I get all those different nuanced flavors. There's so much going on, especially because of the addition of that Q yeast strain. I think that really brings a lot of that candied fruit in with the more delicate fruits of the V. And you have some of the spice from the K. So I think it's just how everything's so integrated and how it just kind of unfolds over time on the palate.
I mean, it is really amazing how it unfolds. One thing I'm noticing more and more as I taste this throughout the week I've been trying it, is it has floral essence and that kind of, it has this light characteristic, but at the same time, it's robust. It has that caramel. I get sort of just a touch of that sort of cigar box, barrel warehouse. I mean, it's both of those things in one sip. How do you do that? That's some real magic.
A lot of trial and error. The first part is finding really good batches.
Right.
And we're always pulling batches, doing test blends, making sure all the standard products are consistent. And in doing that, we come across these batches that just stand out for one reason or another. Those batches are set aside. We don't even touch them until they're at least 10 years of age. And then from 10 to 20, however old, they just sit there, and we sample them every year when it comes time to start doing these test blends. And then I start looking at the individual batches. And they're all so unique. They all have such interesting characteristics that the challenge is finding the most unique way to bring them together, because the opportunity is just endless. It's infinite there. So that's part of it. Like this one, that oak, that I like how you put it, that cigar box flavor and aroma, that, I can backtrack and tell you which batch, that came from. And I was conscious of that particular oak undertone. It wasn't like wet wood or sour wood or flat oak. It was a vibrant, still kind of, spice-like, nice light oak. Even though it's there in plenty of volume, it's not overpowering. And so that particular component, I'm aware of that when I'm blending it, because that's, especially with oak, that's always a fine line you're walking.
You've put some real thought into this, and you're very talented at what you do. So as we go from that oak cigar box, you trace that back to, tell me again, which one is it? That
would be the OESV, is the one that I see that in the most.
The OESV.
Yeah, and that is.
And again, that's the 16-year-old. That's the seriously old that you have. 58% of this one is that OESV, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that one is that's the lion's share of the recipes in this one, or batching.
Right. But then you get these nice fruits, and then, like I said, kind of off the top, it has this this magic of something sort of floral. It's that you get a little of that rye, but it's this beautiful balance. Well, as we know, rye gives us floral. What else are you getting there right off the top, Brent?
The typical characteristics are there. I get the nice caramel. Now, the vanilla, I think, is especially pronounced in this. Very creamy, hint of sweetness. And then even on the finish, some hints of cocoa and more of those nice oak tones that we were talking about.
That chocolate, even it's slightly, maybe even cocoa, and just maybe a touch of coconut, something kind of tropical towards the end.
I can see that. Yeah, I get that a lot in some of our older barrels, and I see it here also. Just a hint of that coconut flavor.
This is beautiful, Brent. I mean, I don't want to be just the one that says, "Hey, they get better every year," but I really think the more you do this, the more the bourbon develops and gets, older. This is, I think, one of my favorite of the last 14 years. It really is. This is good.
Well, I'm glad you like it. I appreciate you saying so.
Yeah, really delicious. Yeah. Now, with what you've blended in there in the past, what's been the oldest you've played with? What's been the very oldest?
The oldest that we've actually used would have been the 23-year-old.
Right.
Alsifia.
That, which was just silly old, like really old stuff you're putting in there.
Yeah, and that was kind of almost at his insistence, or his daring us to really push the envelope on that one. But it worked out. It worked out just fine. It was in there at a low, I forget, it's like 6 or 8%, but it was just enough that you could tell it was there. But again, it wasn't so dominant, overshadowed in even more delicate flavor.
Yeah. No, this is so beautiful. Okay, again, this comes out later this month. It is and you actually, there's some brands that are like, we won't tell you how many of these limited editions we're releasing. You all actually tell. How many are you releasing?
We'll tell you as best as we can. It's about 14,500.
Yeah, that's better than we can get out of some brands, which is okay. I mean, some of them want to be very mysterious and act like they have no clue, or that's some big secret. Thank you for actually telling us. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's right around there, around 14,500.
We actually feel like, I think with those kind of numbers versus some other, 5,000-6,000, it's limited, but you can find it if you look, which is a good thing. This is really good. Obviously, lots has been happening there at Four Roses. You've had this one. Of course, you're always working on other new projects. The last thing that was the most recent, I'll say, what was the small batch select? That came out how many years ago?
That was 19.
19. So that, a couple years into that, it's still getting some good feedback on that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, people are loving it, and it still isn't even nationwide yet. When we launched it in 19, it was 5 markets. So we added about a dozen last year, a bunch more this year. I think the end of this year we'll be in about 30 markets. So we're close to saturating the U.S. But with that, it was one of those. We didn't have enough barrels to just go nationwide immediately, but we were excited about it, so we want to go ahead and start ramping it up. So that's what we introduced it in 19.
You wanted to build it slowly. You wanted to have the right amount of the aged whiskey. When you're going for the small batch, the limited edition small batch, when you're diving into, as you mentioned the other day, blank slate, how do you decide what to use from here? Do you say, I think this year we're going to use some of this that's set aside, or do you just start playing with all types of age statements?
So going in, sometimes I might have something in mind, like maybe this year it'd be fun. Like this year, I actually was thinking it's been a while since we've used the Q, and I think it could really be a good vehicle to just showcase our uniqueness and just to make a really good and different whiskey from what we've done in the last 3, 4, 5 years. But I've had ideas like that before, and I've ended up taking totally different directions. It really kind of depends on the actual batch. Once I sample those, and those barrels, they sit there, and again, they're up there in age, and those only get sampled once a year. And it's actually probably it's coming up. I'll probably start having them sampled in October and November. And then it's really just going through all those batches, spending a lot of time, like 1, 2, 3 weeks, just going in and spending a few minutes every morning, going through the batches and getting very familiar with all of them. And at that point, start having ideas. You can walk in there with 100 ideas. Then when you actually start looking at the batches, certain ones might have characteristics that they didn't have last year, better or worse, different. And so from there, I think the realistic ideas start coming up. The ones that are really not just theoretical, walking to the lab. They're ideas that are born from the actual batch, characteristics of those batches right there in front of me.
Right. That's amazing. So you're actually going to start, you said October, November, working on next year's small batch.
Yeah, start pulling samples for it.
Start pulling the samples. Once you go through several, how many of these do you go through till you get like the 3, or how does that look when do you narrow it down to 3 and have people taste it and say, what do you think? How does that look?
Usually what I'll do is it could take up to, there have been times where it was, I think that most was like 70 some odd test blends. And that's really a function of time. If I have time to do that, I'll keep tinkering with it until drop dead date where we've got to start preparing the artwork and all the stuff behind the scenes. But usually I'll get it down within 6 weeks to maybe 2 or 3 different directions. Typically, seems more lately it's been about 2 directions. And I'll keep tinkering in each of those directions, and then I'll decide on which one I think is most interesting, most different from years past, and really, for lack of a better word, just a better one I like more. And at that point, usually I'm pretty excited, and I'll start getting feedback from others, other people on the tasting panel, or just anyone in the company, because it's pretty exciting. Everyone's really proud of these, and happy to start trying once I'm close to the final.
And then you have it, and then it's usually a mixture of something around 4, right? It's a right around 4 as it goes.
It seems like it's been 3. I think as recently as 2017. But I think more often than not, it ends up in 4 different batches.
Excellent. Well, as the more I taste this, it's those, as you mentioned, those chocolates, kind of that chocolate nib, milk chocolate, nice caramels. Just really refined. If you're already a Four Roses fan like we are, it's going to have that DNA of Four Roses. But this really has a flavor journey that goes a lot of places, and is really amazing. And we'll have to say here on September 1st, we're just starting out Bourbon Heritage Month. So happy Bourbon Heritage Month to you, Brent, and everybody watching.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah, we love it every month. But what do you have planned? Anything in particular you have planned there at Four Roses or yourself?
Well, we will be releasing this. It's going to be same as last year. With COVID and everything, we've kind of adjusted how we release this. It's now by lottery. So of course, that's going to be a big event around the distillery. We've been shut down for the summer. We're starting back up next week. So that's exciting. We are working on a new visitor center. We have been working on a new visitor center that will be open at the end of the year.
Wow.
Probably November, December, maybe at the latest. But we've basically outgrown the current visitor center. So it's going to be incredible. It's 14,000 square feet, a ton of outdoor space. They've got to come see us once that's complete.
I want to come see you soon. And how far along are you on it? I mean, it's
getting pretty close.
Yeah. Just adding on to what you have now.
Yeah, it's just basically if you walked out of the old visitor center and looked across the parking lot, it's in that field where there used to be nothing.
So as folks head to Four Roses Distillery at the end of the year, they will be seeing before the end of the year, probably November, December, they'll be seeing a whole new experience there.
Yeah, we'll be announcing when it's opening once we know better. We don't want to promise the date. You know how construction is.
Sure.
We're on track. Everything's looking good, and it's coming together nicely.
Okay, let's see. I think we may have a question on these limited edition runs. How far from the core Four Roses profile do you want to venture when you're thinking about on these? How far do you want to venture from the profile, and what about the profile do you want to keep?
Yeah, I think when you mentioned like drinking below the proof, that's part of the profile because I think that falls into the smooth and mellow. So that's always one of the criteria. Apart from that, I'd want to say not too oaky.
Right.
But again, that is part of the Four Roses profile. We're always upfront about our ages. We have internal age criteria, but we don't put them on the bottle. We're always upfront about how a barrel's ready when it's ready. It's not good just for the sake of its age. A barrel is judged on its own merit at whatever time it's ready to be used.
Right.
But I think if you compare any of these limited editions, any of our standard products, you will see them. The core is still there, and you can still tell it's got those unique fruits and spices that you get a lot from the Four Roses. But they're always quite a bit different. I mean, they're further apart. Small batch and small batch is like very different. But if you take a limited edition small batch and put it in the mix, it's out in left field from those two. And that's true of any of these bourbons that are average age of 14 to 17 years, which is typically the case for the limited edition.
Right. They're a lot older. And as you were mentioning the other day, there's even a chance with and I know it's a very small amount, but as we look at a barrel's ready when it's ready, sometimes the Four Roses small batch might even have something, a couple barrels in a batch that are a little bit older than usual, right?
Well, the small batch like in single barrel, we have strict lower and upper limits. It's always 6 and 7 year old for small batches. Occasionally, maybe a batch will slip up into the low 8, but for the most part, because that flavor profile is established, smaller
6 to 7 or so.
We don't go outside that range. But we do have barrels. Yeah, we do have barrels that go into Four Roses bourbon that, ever so often I'll go in. It'll be like after this survey of these older barrels, and unfortunately, sometimes these batches get up, 20 plus, and you've got a handful of barrels of them, and they've gotten to the point where they're not going to be able to really contribute anything. They're either too oaky, too flat, or too few barrels to really do much with. And then those will go into Four Roses bourbon. And in there, it's a cool story because you can say this bourbon that is lower in price than these others actually has some of the oldest bourbon, or it has older bourbon than any of them. Not every time, not every bottle yet, but it does happen. That is sort of a repository for these older batches because there it's a dump of 400 barrels. So if we just put 5, 10 much older barrels in there, just occasionally, it's not going to make any difference. It'll probably never be noticed, but it wouldn't be noticed.
So occasionally that will happen, and what an amazing thing! I mean, all these again, from the entry to the small batch select. I mean, it's amazing. Again, you all have kept just superior quality bourbons at a really wonderful price point. This is, of course, something very special that happens twice a year. If for some reason you all look for a bottle of the small batch you can't find at the limited edition, you can look forward to the spring. Hopefully, you'll find the single barrel. What are you thinking about? Any thoughts on the limited edition single barrel you're able to share yet?
No, unfortunately, we actually stopped doing those.
Okay, so that's not going to happen this year.
That's not going to happen. And the reason for that is, when we first started out with that, like with Jim's 40th, I think we did like 1,400 bottles.
Right.
And the bourbon market was much different then. That was plenty. And we kept going every year, kept adding more and more to that. And then we got to the point where the volume was so low that we were not really reaching that many consumers with it. And the reason it's low is because if it's a single barrel, we have to have a batch of high enough quality and has 100 plus barrels to even make 10,000 in the neighborhood of 10,000 bottles. And we do have a few batches that are that big, but we felt they were better used as components for the small batches. Instead of, eventually we would have to either start compromising and selecting batches because the pool of batches that big in the older inventory wasn't that big. So we didn't want to compromise. We didn't want to keep pushing that. So we stopped doing that and focused all those older batches on the small batches. So I'm sorry to tell you that.
You know what, Britt? I probably think that you still do it because I still have, remnants of limited edition single barrels around. So that's probably why I think it's still, because I'm still sipping on them, and they're amazing, of course.
Oh, they are, yeah.
And even the single barrels. If you find a Four Roses single barrel, a lot of those out there that restaurants, bars, spirit stores will do amazing, and that's still going, obviously.
Oh yeah, that's sort of the silver lining, and that's actually in a lot of ways much better because in that program, retailers and individuals get like the barrels they want. It's all 10 recipes, and the volume's a lot higher. When we did the limited editions, it'd be, let's say 90 to 110 barrels. It was relatively small volume. For the private selection program, we do 50 barrels a month, 55 barrels a month. So a lot more of those are getting out there. There's a lot more variety, and it's all super selected, fantastic bourbon. It's always 8 to 12 years of age. So even some of those older ones, they get close to or probably are around the same age as some of those limited edition single barrels.
Yes.
So
some of the higher age ones are how old again? That on that
12 is pretty much the ceiling on those. Sometimes
12 will be the ceiling.
Yeah, sometimes the barrel will get picked at 12 and then they'll sneak out the door after it has 13th birthday. But for the most part, we try to keep it between 8 and 12.
One of the first videos we did with Four Roses, even maybe 13 plus years ago, we did was us picking out a single barrel with some really, really cool guys from Lexington, and we filmed the whole thing. And man, what a trip! I mean, because back then, being fairly new in bourbon, I knew I was having barrel proof whiskey, but none of it drank like it. So by the end of the day, I was like, I can tell I've been having it, but none of it felt like it.
Yeah.
Until later. Than it did, not on the palate. There's so much to look forward to. The new visitor center, this bourbon release, anything. I mean, that's a lot coming up. But anything else you want to mention that you're looking forward to?
We are releasing the small batch and the small batch select in minis, in 50 milliliter bottles. So that's either in your stores now or will be very soon. So,
and that's across the country.
Yes.
So, and again, I probably have one not too far away, but I have one of another single barrel. Just been dynamite always because they look like the big bear. bottle. These are going to look like the big bottles too.
Yeah, they're shaped just like the big bottles.
That's exciting.
They're really cute.
And did that decision sort of come about this past year from minis being more popular, or what inspired that?
It actually came about the time we started releasing the Select. We thought it was just a great opportunity to showcase, because we're always talking about how the different recipes can create flavors and different products, and it's really not feasible to expect someone to go out and buy a small batch Select if they never tried Four Roses,
right? And
then taste them to understand what we're talking about. But to pick up a couple of miniatures, they can first find out which of those they like or both, and kind of understand that product, and they can taste them side by side and understand that unique we're always trying to talk about.
Excellent. So we'll be looking forward to seeing those either now or very soon near you. The small batch Select, and obviously the single barrel is out there as well in minis, all sorts of options. And again, this just gives us one more to look forward to later this month. What do you know what the date is this is coming out, or what week it'll be in September? Or is it just
well, I can tell you this. I'm not sure exactly what the date is going to be, the gift shop, but we're not, it's all by lottery. We're not letting people line up for obvious reasons. Right. Just for safety and health reasons, we've gone to the lottery system. You can go to our website, and there's a place to register. So you can sign up to be in the lottery.
You can sign up to be in the lottery at fourrosesbourbon.com, or it's also available across the country in select stores then.
Yeah, it will be. It'll be in Kentucky in late September. Other states typically trail a little bit just for getting to the distributor and getting out on the shelves. But yeah, from September to the end of the year, it'll be heading to a store near you.
But if you get in this lottery, you either get to Kentucky, find some way of picking it up, and you can register. Is it right now? You can register for that lottery. Yeah,
I think you go to the website, go to bourbons, go to limited editions, and then click on the 2021, and it will say there's an icon like
I see it.
First glance or something, maybe.
Go down to bourbons. I got it, and then you can register. You can get that lottery, and you can just keep on. If you can't get to Kentucky, keep looking around. Hope you can find one of these. But no matter what, even if you can't find one, you got all kind of great options on Four Roses and new minis. Well, Brent, my friend, so good to see you. I hope to see you real soon in Kentucky, and it will be exciting to see what you all are doing with the new visitor center as well.
Absolutely. Got to come see us.
Delicious bourbon, my friend, as always. Yeah, great seeing you. 2021 Four Roses limited edition small batch will be around September. Delicious. Well done, Brent.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for watching Bourbon Blog, everybody. Cheers.